All right, let's go in further detail on the Niners signing Brandon Aiyuk to this contract extension. We've kind of discussed everything, but let's go a little bit further in depth. So breaking news here on the San Francisco 49ers report by Chat Sports, and by now, you all know the news. Brandon Aiyuk and the Niners have agreed to a 4-year, $120 million contract extension, $76 million in guaranteed money, and it comes out to an average annual value of $30 million per year for the 2023 All-Pro, and a player who the Niners have developed and invested in since taking him in the first round back in the 2020 NFL Draft. Ian Rappaport breaking the news this afternoon on this Thursday, August 29th. Finally. And I think that's a reaction that all of us have. Finally, it's over. We don't have to worry about the daily updates. We don't have to worry about whether or not Aiyuk is going to get dealt. He doesn't have to worry about playing on that fifth-year option. Aiyuk all along has wanted to get compensated. Aiyuk all along has wanted to get rewarded for becoming an all-pro player. Brandon Aiyuk has seen this wide receiver market explode, and in turn, his asking price and his demands have been on the uptick. He's also seen his other teammates get new contracts and guaranteed money and contract extensions. And Aiyuk's been looking around over the last several weeks, last few months, saying, well, hold on. I've been pivotal to the Niners' offensive success. My production has gotten better and better and better every single year that I've been in the National Football League. I am crucial to this team reaching their expectations and their potential of being a Super Bowl contender. With my deep threat ability, we finally saw what Kyle Shanahan's offense can become with very good quarterback play and me on the outside. He has been this team's number one wide receiver the last 2 years. So he's wanted to get compensated. He gets compensated, and he gets paid handsomely on this 4-year, $120 million contract. And now our focus shifts to week 1 against the New York Jets and San Francisco, trying to chase that Super Bowl. Be sure to subscribe to the channel, because when breaking news happens, we bring it to you right here on this show. As you can see, we are approaching 138,000 subscribers. If you want entertaining, insightful, innovative, thought-provoking Niners coverage every single day, I have you covered right here on the show. Now, a lot of people have a question. Where does Aiyuk rank among the highest paid wide receivers in the National Football League? He's up there, and he becomes one of the highest compensated wideouts in a very competitive market at a very competitive position. Justin Jefferson, average annual value, is making $35 million per year. CeeDee Lamb, right behind him at $34 million per year. He signed that extension with the Dallas Cowboys earlier this week. A.J. Brown, earlier this offseason, signed an extension with Philadelphia. He's making $32 million average annual value. Amon-Ra St. Brown, just over 30. Tyreek Hill at 30. Brandon Aiyuk at 30. Jalen Waddle at 28 and a quarter. And Devontae Adams at $28 million even. And a big reason why Aiyuk is getting paid and compensated this highly is because of the player that he's become. And his career trajectory has been very fascinating and very interesting to watch. And I've pretty much watched every single snap that he's played for the San Francisco 49ers. He gets taken 25th overall out of Arizona State in the 2020 draft, and immediately, as the Niners suffer from a bevy of injuries coming off that Super Bowl loss against Kansas City, he gets thrust into action. And he leads the team in receiving yards as a rookie in only 12 games played. 60 catches, 748 yards, and 5 touchdowns. Average yards per catch at 12.5. And I think that's so impressive because as a rookie, there is such a steep learning curve, especially when you're trying to learn Kyle Shanahan's offensive system. But you also have to get acclimated with the NFL life. And then the game speed and the physicality of the NFL game is dramatically different than college. There's just so much more talent. And Aiyuk, year 1, because of COVID, did not have any preseason games. There were limited training camp practices. And the training camp practices that the Niners had limitations because of COVID. Yet he still has a really good year, and you start to see the promise. things started to get a little bit dicey during his sophomore campaign when he started the year in the doghouse. But then he comes out of the doghouse, and after the Niners started 3-5, he really turned on the Jets, and the Niners' turnaround coincided with Aiyuk's rise as a player. Now, his catches went down by 4, but his yards went up, and you really saw that he could become a special player in this league. And really, people started to talk about Aiyuk when he had that game-winning touchdown against the Cincinnati Bengals on the road in overtime. Remember that? And then in year 3, he sets records all across the board for production. And then last year, his best season up to date. He finally gets the respect nationally that he deserved. People start to recognize him as a clean route runner with some excellent footwork. But Brock Purdy and his elite deep ball led to Brandon Aiyuk having a career year. And Brandon Aiyuk found success running every single route on the route tree, beating zone coverage, man coverage, and became just an all-around dynamic weapon for Kyle Shanahan. And he turned in a marvelous campaign. He was number 2 in yards per catch in the NFL at 17.9, behind Tyreek Hill. He was number 2 in yards per target at 12.8. He was the second highest graded wide receiver according to Pro Football Focus at 91.5. So he checks out statistically and analytically. Speaking of analytics, number 2 in expected points added at 107.3. And despite the Niners throwing the football at the 32nd rate in the NFL, dead last since the Christian McCaffrey trade, Aiyuk goes number 2 in all of these categories, still number 7 in receiving yards. And I think that's what's so impressive. He made more of fewer opportunities. And his argument at the negotiating table, I imagine, was, if I got Justin Jefferson targets, CD Lamb targets, Amon-Ra St. Brown targets, my price tag would be higher because my production would be higher. And that's why I think that he demanded $30 million per year, combined with the wide receiver market being what it is and what it has been, and it resetting on multiple occasions. Fascinated to hear from you. What is your one-word reaction to Aiyuk returning to the Niners? Our one word, producer Chip and I, relieved. You go back to Aiyuk's path. He is a player who San Francisco drafted 25th overall. He goes from JUCO to Arizona State. He becomes the leading receiver as a rookie, doghouse year 2, and now has developed into an all-pro. And now this is 5 consecutive off seasons in which the Niners have taken care of their homegrown players. You don't invest all of your time and efforts in developing players into all pros and then let them walk. There has been a saying that I've uttered on this show many times. Do not let special walk out the door. And that's why I never thought that it made sense to let Aiyuk go, especially when if you traded him, you were going to get 75 cents back on the dollar. You weren't getting a first-round pick. Pittsburgh wouldn't give you George Pickens, who I don't even know if you want because of the character issues. You're not getting players or draft picks back that are going to help you dramatically in this Super Bowl window. So get the deal done and keep in mind that the NFL salary cap is going to continue to go up. The wide receiver market will continue to explode. Now, this might lead to difficult decisions where you have to let go of Deebo Samuel after this year because the team is going to become more expensive when you have to pay Brock Purdy and there's no more guaranteed money left on Deebo's deal. But Aiyuk the last 2 years has been the more productive player, the better player, and the more available player as compared to Deebo. More on that in a second. Why I wanted Aiyuk to return to the Niners, too. He's a great pairing alongside your quarterback in Brock Purdy. You have an opportunity to support your young franchise quarterback who they have a great kinship and camaraderie working right now over the last year and a half. The last now 5 off seasons, you have invested in your homegrown studs. Nick Bosa in 2020, Fred Warner 2021, Deebo Samuel 2022, Nick Bosa in 2023, and now Brandon Aiyuk in 2024. And for as much frustration as you might have with this Niners organization, you do have to give them credit because they have found ways to get deals done to keep their special players in-house. George Kittle at the time was the highest paid tight end in the history of the NFL. Fred Warner was the highest paid off-ball linebacker in the NFL. Deebo Samuel got top 10 wide receiver money. They made Nick Bosa the highest paid non-quarterback in the history of the NFL. And now Brandon Aiyuk is getting $30 million per year for a team that runs the football a lot. 2 more points here. Aiyuk hasn't hit his ceiling yet. He's 26 years old. It's not like he's 30, and it's not like he's had injury-plagued seasons. He has been a very durable, tough, and rugged player, and I think he's only going to continue to get better. And maybe now that the Niners are investing in him, they start to throw the ball a little bit more, and they make good on that investment. I also love what Aiyuk is about. I know that some people have soured on him this offseason because he tweeted directly at Mike Tomlin, and he took the TikTok with Jane Daniels and said the Niners don't want him any longer. He demanded a trade. He went on the Pivot podcast and said, if I don't come back to the Niners, I'd like to play with Jane Daniels, with the Commanders, maybe the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's been active on social media, but he's been active to try to get the money that he feels as though he deserves. But outside of that, he's gone about his business in the right way prior to this offseason. He's been available for this team. He's been highly productive. He's a willing blocker. He takes hits. He's tough. His teammates love him. And Kyle Shanahan absolutely loves him. So you want people as part of your organization in sports or as part of your business who you like to be around, who do a good job at driving that bottom line, who produce, who are great for the workplace culture. And Brandon Aiyuk is all of those things. And when you compare Aiyuk to Deebo, yes, right now you have a very expensive wide receiver room. And we'll see if this wide receiver room continues their partnership. And we'll see what happens with Deebo Samuel after this year because he has no guaranteed money left. But it was a no-brainer for me that if you're to plan for the future, and that's what good businesses do, they always have foresight, the wide receiver to keep is Aiyuk over Deebo. When you compare the last 2 years, Aiyuk, younger player, more durable player, more available player, and more productive player. 33 games played for him as compared to Deebo's 28. 219 targets to Deebo's 183. 153 catches to Deebo's 116. 2,300 plus yards to 1,500 plus yards. That's an 800-yard difference. Yards per catch, 15 to 13.1. And this is total touchdowns here. Don't hit me with Chase. Deebo, he's also a running threat. Yes, he is. And he's one of one of the more special playmakers that we've seen in this generation of football. Total touchdowns, Deebo has the edge there. You're right. 17 to 15. But in that Super Bowl against Kansas City, the Chiefs were able to thwart this Niners offense in part because they jammed Deebo a lot at the line of scrimmage. And he struggled to beat some of that press man coverage. Brandon Aiyuk is a man press beater, a zone beater, and more of a traditional outside wide receiver. So grade the Brandon Aiyuk extension, A, B, C, D, or F. Let me know down in the comment section right now what you think of this new deal for the Niners and Aiyuk.